Now the law of principle of identity is the simplest way how you can understand is that if any statement is true, then it is true, right? This is the simplest way of putting across the law of principle of identity. So if in the exams it comes, the law of principle of identity says that if any statement is true, then it indeed is true. And that would be absolutely correct. So this particular thing is something that you need to remember pertaining to the law of principle of identity, right? But what do I mean by if any statement is true, then it indeed is true? I'm simply saying that under the law of principle of identity, or the law of principle of identity asserts that every statement in the form of if P then P must be true. As simple as that, okay? It asserts that every statement in the form of if P then P must be true. So you see, here the most important concept is a tautology. So every such statement, which is going to be this, is going to be what? Every such statement that asserts that if P, then P must be true is simply going to be a tautology, right? Now, what exactly is tautology? Tautology is one of the most important concepts. We'll discuss tautology and contingent statements in a separate lecture, but for the time being, let me just get you familiar with the term. Tautology is basically, or a tautologous statement is that statement, all right, or that statement form which only, right, which only has what? True substitution. Are you getting the point? I'm saying a tautology is something, or a tautologous statement is that which only has what? True substitution. So what are the substitutions going to be here? The substitution could either be a true or a false. But a tautologous statement or a tautology is where we only have true substitutions, right? So you can also put it in the sense like a statement form which only has true substitution instances. So just remember this. This is what makes it a tautologous statement. And which all these that only have true substitution instances are going to be these statements. With the statements that assert that every statement in the form that if P then P must be true is going to be a tautology. Right? Now, this is the basic understanding of the law of principle of identity. This is the definition of it. This is what it means. And this is what we're inferring from it. That also, by the way, if in the exam it comes that tautology is one of the most important concepts under which law of the principle of these three, right? So it is the law of the principle of identity. So that's about the tautology. The examples that you need to remember pertaining to the exam for the law of principle of identity would be, very importantly, it's going to be P horseshoe P, that is if P then P, the same thing that we discussed in the definition. And the second example is P wedge negation P. Now these are the two examples that we're going to look into consideration pertaining to the law of principle of identity. These are very important for you to remember. You can note them down somewhere. Why am I saying that P horseshoe P and P wedge negation P is the classic example of the first law or the law of principle of identity? We'll just find that out by using what? The truth tables, right? So let's make some space for the truth tables. Alright, so the first one that we have is P horseshoe P. Now, we'll draw a truth table for it. So it will be what? It will be P, P and P horseshoe P. Now, true, false, true, false. True, true becomes what? True. False, false becomes what? True. Why? Because we have a horseshoe sign between, right? Remember, for the horseshoe sign, what happens that all the instances, like for instance, like this, right? So if it's P horseshoe Q here, this is P and this is Q. True, true is true, true, false is false, false, true is true, false, false is true. So same, using the same, right? The horseshoe truth table. So what we were saying is that here there are only true instances, right? So this is a classic example of what? This is a classic example of the law of principle of identity. This is the first example. Now let's take the second. It was P wedge negation P. The same way we'll draw the truth table for it. So this will be true, false, then false, true. Why? Because we have a negation sign here. So this becomes what? True, wedge, false, false, wedge, true. True, wedge, false is true. False, wedge, true is also true. So what do we have here? In the second one also we only have instances. We only have true in the third column. True, true. We have true in the third column. So this actually shows what? This shows that all substitution instances are true. Right? And since all substitution instances are true, such statements are called tautologies, or such statements are called tautologous statements. Is this clear? So these are all the important things you need to remember pertaining to the first law of principle of identity, right?